He fixed a stranger's scooter without asking for a rupee. But when he learned who she really was, his simple act of kindness turned into a moment that would change his entire life. It was just another dusty morning at Bhola Garage, a tiny roadside repair stall on the edge of a bustling market in Bhopal. 65-year-old Baba Bhola, as everyone called him, sat cross-legged beside his toolkit, humming an old Kishore Kumar tune. He didn't own much, just a rickety chair, a tin roof held up by bamboo sticks, and a rusted box of tools that had outlived their labels. But what he did have was a good heart. So when a young woman in her mid-20s came pushing a broken-down scooter toward him, sweat trickling down her temple, frustration written across her face, he smiled. "Beta, what happened?" "The engine just died," she huffed. "I have to be somewhere. Can you fix it quickly?" He nodded, already squatting beside the bike. "Quick or perfect?" she blinked. He grinned. "Because I don't do quick, I do right." Despite her worry, she smiled. For the next 20 minutes, he worked in silence, his fingers moving like magic across wires, bolts, and gears. She watched him curiously. He was old, yes, but sharp, focused, gentle. Finally, with a sputter and a puff of smoke, the scooter coughed back to life. "There," he said proudly, wiping his hands on a rag. "Good as new." She reached for her wallet, but he stopped her. "No money," he said firmly. "It's too hot to argue, and you look like someone with important things to do. Just say a prayer for this old man tonight." She stood still, stunned. "Are you serious?" he winked. "One day you'll help someone else. That'll be my payment." She didn't say anything then, but as she rode off, she looked back at him with eyes that carried more than gratitude. Because Baba Bhola had no idea who he had just helped. That evening, Baba Bhola closed his tiny garage as usual, folding his tools carefully into the old wooden box he'd used for decades. The market lights flickered on, chai vendors shouted last orders, and the world moved on. He had already forgotten about the girl with the scooter. But the girl hadn't forgotten about him. The next morning, something unusual happened. 2 white SUVs rolled into the narrow lane, right up to the garage. Security men stepped out, scanning the area. A small crowd gathered instantly, confused, curious, and then the scooter girl stepped out. But now, she wasn't wearing dusty jeans and a worried frown. She wore a crisp beige kurta, her hair neatly tied, and a staff badge that read, "Anya Verma, Office of the Mayor," the people whispered. Someone gasped, and then someone said it out loud. "That's the mayor's daughter." Baba Bhola stood stunned, grease on his hands, blinking as she walked toward him with the same smile, but a very different presence. "Beta?" She folded her hands respectfully. "Namaste, Baba." The entire lane fell silent. She turned to the crowd and said clearly, "Yesterday, I was just a girl with a broken scooter. He didn't know who I was. He didn't ask. He just helped. With heart, with dignity, and with no expectations." She looked directly at him now. "And that's the kind of citizen this city needs more of." Baba's lips trembled. "I just did what anyone should." She stepped closer. "No, Baba. You did what most won't." Then she turned to her team and nodded. In seconds, a banner was unfurled behind the garage. Bhola Garage, official partner of the city's Citizen Care Program, certified by the mayor's office. A media crew appeared, and before he could protest, his photo was being taken, and his name was being broadcast across the city. But the biggest surprise hadn't come yet. Anya handed him a sealed envelope. "For you," she said, "from my mother." Baba Bhola slowly opened it, and inside was a certificate of recognition, a lifetime license fee waiver, and an offer to expand his garage into a fully equipped auto care center funded by the government. His knees buckled slightly. "What? Why me?" She smiled, eyes full of warmth. "Because you fixed a scooter, Baba. But more than that, you reminded us how to care. Within a week, the once-forgotten Bhola garage looked nothing like its old self. New tiles lined the floor, a shaded waiting area with benches and fans had been added. A fresh coat of yellow and blue paint covered the tin walls. The toolbox was replaced with a gleaming cabinet full of equipment Baba Bhola had never dreamed of affording. But through it all, one thing hadn't changed: Baba Bhola himself. He still arrived before sunrise, still hummed old songs while working, still refused tips from struggling customers. News channels began calling him the mechanic with the mayor's heart. People lined up, not just to fix bikes, but to take selfies, shake his hand, hear his story. And then, one morning, a black car pulled up quietly. From it stepped Mayor Neelam Verma herself. The crowd hushed instantly. She walked up to Baba, folded her hands with deep respect, and said, "You fixed my daughter's scooter. But unknowingly, you fixed something far bigger. You reminded us that real service isn't in speeches or offices. It's in sweat, sincerity, and silence." She presented him with a framed plaque. City Pride Award for restoring dignity through humility. Then she leaned closer and whispered, "Anya told me what you said, about helping her and asking only for a prayer in return. Well, Baba, this city just prayed for you." The crowd clapped. Some teared up. Baba just looked stunned. But Anya wasn't done. She stepped forward and opened a small box. Inside was a pair of golden-handled spanners engraved with his name. He laughed softly. "I can't use these." "They're not for fixing scooters," she smiled. "They're for remembering that sometimes fixing one small thing starts a chain reaction that lifts many." Months passed, but the memory of that rainy day never faded. Not for Anya, not for the mayor, and definitely not for Baba Bhola. He continued working, not because he had to, but because he loved to. People came from nearby towns not just to get their scooters fixed, but to meet the man who became a symbol of quiet heroism. Journalists called him the heartbeat of the city. Schools invited him to speak. Children drew his face in art class. But Baba remained the same, simple, grounded, always smiling through oil stains and engine grease. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, he found a letter waiting at the garage. It was from a young man named Samir. "Dear Baba, I came to your garage last week. I was lost, jobless, and ready to give up. You fixed my scooter, refused money, and told me to believe in myself the way engines believe in second chances. Today I got a job. Your kindness saved me. Samir." Baba held the letter to his chest, quietly wiping a tear. That night, a journalist asked him, "Baba, do you ever wish you'd done something bigger with your life?" He chuckled. "Beta, I did. I made people believe again. One scooter, one cup of chai, one kind word at a time." 1 year later, outside the now famous garage, a permanent signboard glowed in soft lights. "Here, we fix more than machines. We fix faith. Baba Bhola," and etched in bronze beneath it. This garage was built on tools and tears, and rebuilt on love. Because sometimes the greatest service isn't loud. It's the quiet act of helping someone when no one's watching, only to discover later, someone important always was.